Should a male be financially stable before getting married or going on a date?
If I'm wrong, Dana, I don't think there's anything in the Bible that talks about, hey man, you have to have enough money set aside and or enough stable income before you can marry a woman. I don't think there's anything like that. And that's very much more a symptom of the modern day world, because back then God was intending that every person would have their own plot of land. Everybody will always have something to be working and doing. And nowadays it's where we don't have land, we don't have anything, and we're always struggling to find a job and keep a steady stream of income. So it's a new world issue, not so much back in the day. And the wife would also play a role in helping them make income. We have the woman in Proverbs who, is running the show and running the business while her husband gets to just sit at the gate and look cool and be political. So it's not that the man's got to do all the work, got to do everything, got to take care of the woman, and she does nothing. No, I mean, it really was to be an enterprise and they work together. But nonetheless, like what's a principle we can take away today for us, and it's important, is Luke 14. So Luke 14 verse 28, and it says, for which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it? And this is always a good principle for no matter what you're going to do. Always make sure, like, do you have the money? Do you have the funds? Do you have the resources to accomplish what you need to do? And sometimes God calls us to take a leap by faith. Sometimes God says, I'm going to take care of you. Don't worry. I know you don't have enough now, but I'll complete what you need. So you got to use spiritual discernment. If God says do something, do it. But at the same time, if you don't have means to take care of yourself, your potential spouse wouldn't have means to take care of herself, and you coming together would create an even bigger burden, bigger problem. It's not going to work, right? But I think a lot of these concepts that we tend to talk about isn't necessarily a biblical issue. It's more practical. And Tina, any thoughts on that before we talk about Solomon?
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, the only thing that I've always said as a rule of thumb, though, that I think is a principle, a guiding principle that God showed us in the beginning. You see in Genesis chapter 2, where it says in verse 15, it says, and the Lord God took the man, which was Adam, and put him in the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. So God gave him a job and God gave him a place to live. So he was, in a sense, stable, but it was with what God had given him, obviously. And then, and then of course God says, you may eat of every tree except for the knowledge of good and evil. And so, and Adam was obedient. And so he had a walk with God. So this was, a sermon that was preached to me at one point in time, saying, women, if you want to marry a guy, or guys, if you want to marry a girl, men, you have to have a job, a place to live, and a walk with God. If you don't have those three, then it's probably not, a good idea for you to be, looking for a spouse. But I do hear what you're saying. Like, should a woman, should a man be trying to, financially be the sole provider? No, that's not really, right either. And yeah, the Proverbs 31 woman was industrious. She, looked well to the ways of her house. And, and I work full time too, and I'm married. And I think that's a very biblical and acceptable model. And I think it's for my good. It's for my good that I'm not just sitting around being lazy and selfish. And, because I really believe it's, Eve wasn't doing anything, and that's what led her into being tempted. And so, men and women both should be productive in some way, whether it is a full-time job or whatever it is that God is calling you to, but it needs to be God's calling for your life. And yeah, does it mean you have to be like super financially stable? Not if the Lord is telling you, walk in this path and I will provide, because there's people who are missionaries who have nothing and they go out and they serve the Lord, and the Lord is, their provider. So, follow the Lord and his leading. And I think, I hope that's a more balanced, or I hope that's a balanced view of, yeah.